If you disagree with President Trump, you change the law. But that's not what our Democratic colleagues who are running these cities want to do. They want to ignore the law while at the same time lecturing us about the rule of law.
It's day 7 of the federal government shutdown.
House Republicans passed a clean and nonpartisan funding bill to keep the government open and ensure our troops and other hardworking Americans are paid. Every single House Democrat except one voted against this clean and nonpartisan funding bill. Senate Republicans have subsequently tried to pass this same clean funding bill 4 separate times. So all of this begs the question, what is the Democrat ongoing shutdown truly about?
They're off the job again while those deemed essential keep working but won't get paid until there's funding.
The sad truth, we believe, is that the Democrats intentionally shut down the government and are inflicting this pain on American citizens to try and demand free health care for illegal aliens.
Democrats insist that's a lie, and they blame Republicans for refusing to negotiate with them. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is demanding provisions in the funding bill to undo what Republicans passed in the Big Beautiful Bill, including changes in Medicaid coverage and an end to some Obamacare subsidies they say will drive up health costs for many Americans. So since Republicans don't have the 60 votes needed to advance the House-approved funding legislation, the stalemate continues. Senator John Kennedy is a Republican from Louisiana, and that book is out today, and we'll discuss it later, titled How to Test Negative for Stupid and Why Washington Never Will.
First of all, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
And second, here we are, 7 days into a government shutdown. We've been through these before. You've been through these before. Are we close, maybe, to ending this one, or is this going to go for a while?
Well, I think it's going to go for a while. If you read my book, you'll have a little better understanding about why we're in a shutdown, about why senators are not like most teenagers. They're all over 40. There's a lot of ego involved in this shutdown, but really here's what happened. A week ago, the country was just rocking along, minding its own business. Our budget ran out at midnight. We've been talking with our Democratic friends to extend the deadline for us to negotiate a new budget for about 6 weeks. Very simple. And then all of a sudden, our Democratic colleagues said, no, we're going to vote to shut down unless you give us $1.5 trillion and we'll tell you how to spend it. Mm-hmm. So we said, well, that'll happen when donkeys fly backwards. And here we are in a shutdown, and it will not end until 60 members of the Senate take their egos out back and shoot them.
But that's going to be a while longer, right?
That will be a while longer.
It's tough to get the egos aside, isn't it?
Well, yes, and most senators, of course, think they're brand names, kind of like Lululemon. They're not, but they think they are. But on this one, frankly, this shutdown is more political than policy. Senator Schumer would like the socialist wing, progressive wing, lone wing, whatever you want to call it, of the Democratic Party to like him. They don't like him.
Okay.
And he wants them to like him, so he will never vote to open up. We've got to get other Democrats.
So he has to stand up to President Trump to do that. And
yes, okay. But the way I expect this to end is that Senator Schumer will go to some of his Democratic colleagues quietly and say, vote yes to open it back up. I've got to keep voting no. I may even criticize you, but let's do a little play acting here and get government back open, but help me look like a tough guy.
We've been through these shutdowns. You were there. 2018 turned into 2019. The government was shut down for more than a month. Republicans have pointed out, look, back then, Democrats were all for, we want just a clean extension of funding while negotiations play out. But Republicans were demanding provisions be put in. It was border wall funding.
Yeah.
And so we have kind of the roles reversed. So people see this and they're like, oh. Both sides will argue both things depending on the moment.
Yeah, but and I'll admit in the past, usually it's Republicans asking for something. This time, Dave, we're asking for nothing. We don't want anything in return. Just open back up for 6 more weeks so we can put together a budget. And it's my Democratic colleagues who are saying, no, We won't vote to open it back up unless you give us $1.5 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars.
Now they're trying to roll back
changes
you made in the big beautiful bill, right?
Healthcare, they want to roll back healthcare. They want to roll back some of the cuts we made that President Trump sent over. They want to refund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. If you add it all up, it's about they want to extend the Obamacare subsidies. We've got 1.6 million people who are making more than $130,000 a year getting their health insurance subsidized by the federal government. We want to reform that. The Democrats say no, continue it. If you add it all up, it's $1.5 trillion. It's really unreasonable.
So we also have a moment in time where you have the protests against the president and his immigration raids that have gone on. So Republicans and Democrats at odds over this as well in different cities from Portland to Chicago. The president's trying to send the National Guard in. Democrats are resisting it. There's lawsuits. How do we resolve this?
Well, number one, I talk to the president. I don't know. I don't talk to him every day. I don't bother him. Now, when I call him, he calls me right back. But I talked to him about a week ago. He was resigned to a shutdown. His attitude is, y'all do what you got to do. I'm going to do what I got to do. Mm-hmm. Number two, on the crime and the anarchy in our streets in Portland, for example, here's what I don't understand. We know we have a crime problem, particularly in our urban areas. If I'm a mayor or I'm a governor and someone offers me the opportunity to have more law enforcement officials on the street, why would I turn that down?
Well, they say that ICE and the immigration raids are causing the chaos.
Well, I know they say that.
Yeah.
But what's causing the chaos, if you can call it chaos, I call it following the law, is that we closed our border. President Biden allowed in about, as best we can tell, 12 million people, foreign nationals. We don't have the slightest idea who they are. Some, I'm sure, were fine people, but there were criminals, there were rapists, there were sex traffickers. We have no idea who they are.
From all over the world. There were a lot from China, too. All over the world.
It wasn't just from South America or Central America. It was from all over the world. I mean, the border, I was there, Dave. It was completely open. And President Trump has said, well, until you guys change the law, I'm going to enforce it. And that's what he's doing. And so the mayors and the governors pushing back were the same ones who advocated for an open border. They honestly believe that vetting people at the border is racist. Now, I think most Americans think it's prudent.
So how do you resolve that kind of a divide in view?
Well, if you disagree with President Trump, you change the law. But that's not what our Democratic colleagues who are running these cities want to do. They want to ignore the law while at the same time lecturing us about the rule of law. I mean, I love the smell of hypocrisy in the morning,
It's been 2 years now.
Yeah.
Since the October 7th terror attack. Hamas into Israel, killed over 1,000 people. They took all these hostages. And there's talks maybe to finally end this war in Gaza. But that has also caused a big divide here. There were all the pro-Palestinian protests, and there's a lot of anti-Semitism that went on to college campuses. All these things together, we're so divided. We have the political assassination of Charlie Kirk back in September. How can we... everyone says lower the temperature. Is that possible?
It's possible. I just don't think we have the will. Look, Dave, I don't hate anybody. I don't. I work hard not to. When I say my prayers, I do. I ask God, I say, don't let me hate, because it's hard. But once you start seeing those who disagree with you as evil, not just wrong, but evil, then justice seems like punishing evil as opposed to being rational and saying somebody has another point of view. And that's what happened. Now, there is evil in the world. I believe in objective evil. I saw it on October 7th. I saw it. And when you deal with evil, when you deal with terrorists, it's like hand feeding a shark. Sooner or later, they're going to bite you. I'm very proud of what Israel did. Israel fought back. Israel has defeated Hamas for the most part in Gaza. Israel has defeated Hezbollah. Israel has defeated Iran, not completely, but Iran's not going to mess with Israel for a while. And they did it with President Biden criticizing them, and Europe, and China, and Russia, criticizing them every step of the way.
There's a big movement in Europe and around the world. The U.S. is in the minority in this now, to recognize a Palestinian state.
Yeah, I know, but that's just another way of saying we oppose Israel. Let's suppose we ask Prime Minister Starmer in the UK, you want a Palestinian state? Who's going to run it? Where are you going to put it? What are you going to do about Hamas? What are you going to do about Hezbollah, what's left of it, running the Palestinian state? You're going to put the Palestinian Authority in charge. They'll steal every bit of the money. They're doing it right now. This is just play acting.
Symbolic.
Starmer's in trouble politically back in the UK, and he's trying to do anything he can to get people's minds off the economy. But this is a fact, in my opinion. But I think it's a fact. The Middle East is safer today and more stable today because of what Israel has done,
including going after Iran too, right?
They have defeated Hamas, defeated Hezbollah. They have backed Iran off. The Middle East is safer, and it's not just safer for the Israeli people. It's safer for the people of Saudi Arabia. It's safer for the people of Jordan. It's safer for the people of Egypt, and they know it. They can't afford to say it out loud, but they know it because Iran, the Ayatollahs in Iran, are working with President Xi in China, working with Putin in Russia. Their goal was to have Iran dominate the Middle East. They bet on the wrong horse, thanks to Israel. And I have been astounded at how much opposition from the West that Israel has had to endure.
Let's get to your book.
Okay.
Again, it's How to Test Negative for Stupid and Why Washington Never Will. You've been in the Senate now. You started in 2017. You're in your second term in the Senate. When you got there, was it what you expected?
No.
Worse?
Worse.
How much worse?
Substantially. Now, we haven't deteriorated in the Senate as much as, in terms of civility, as much as the House has. But here's what the book is not a policy book. It's a story book. I talk about policy through stories. Many of the stories are funny. Some of them are bizarre, but they're all true. And I use these stories to explain to the American people, or try to, what the Senate's really like, what Washington's really like, why in Washington, D.C., normal is just a setting on the clothes dryer, and to explain to them why it doesn't have to be that way if we just had a return to common sense. And I tell stories about the agony and the ecstasy of working with President Trump. He's my friend, but he can be unruly. Working with President Biden, I tell stories about Senator Schumer, Lindsey Graham, Chuck Grassley. I tell stories about the media, working with the media and the way they are behind the scenes. I talk a little bit about some of the shutdowns, but it's a storybook that I use to discuss policy.
You use humor a lot.
Yeah.
You like a lot of one-liners you're known for, and whenever there's an interview with you on Fox or whatever, there's always something it's always something funny. Like when you talked about taking your egos out back and shooting it. Right? Mm-hmm. Those are lines that nobody else in the Senate is going to use. Do you find them effective when you're talking to people behind the scenes? Does humor work still, even in Washington?
My job is a lot like yours. It's communication.
Right.
The American people are busy. They don't read Aristotle every day because they're too busy earning a living. They've got time to get a little bit of news here, a little bit of news there. So when I have a time to communicate to them about what I want them to know, I spend about 5 minutes alone before an interview. I did before this one, to think about how I'm going to frame it. I talk very plainly. I'm not trying to muddy the water to make it look deep. And I have a unique view of the United States Senate because I'm a little bit sarcastic, which bleeds over into humor. But I don't hate anybody. I think I can be fairly objective. I don't hate my Democratic friends. I don't agree with them. But I really don't hate anybody. And you need that kind of distance to be able to be somewhat objective. Plus, God gave me, I've always been like this, Dave. God gave me the right to remain silent, but not the ability. Now, sometimes it gets me in trouble, but I say what I think, and frankly, I've gotten better. I don't get nearly enough credit for the things I don't say.
You think, though, it's important sometimes to make the right people uncomfortable.
I do. You got to make the right people mad. You know, the only thing I've ever seen that makes everybody happy is alcohol, man. It's just in Washington, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I try not to be mean-spirited, but I'm going to stand up. My job is to represent my people back home in Louisiana. And I try to vote the way they would vote if they had the same information that I do. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes they don't have the information I do, and I have to explain it to them. And my people are not ever happy with every one of my votes. But by God, they're going to know where I stand.
How hard is it to answer? You're a senator. You must get a lot of inquiries from people and
Sure.
questions. How hard is it to do that, to actually reach out and talk to your constituents?
Well, I spend a lot of time back home talking to people, real people. I like to say I use every opportunity I can get to get out of Washington and back into America. Usually that's Louisiana, but I travel a lot. I go during elections. This coming midterm, I'll be in Ohio a lot, North Carolina,
right.
And I like to talk to real people.
Midterms.
And midterms are coming, and see what's on their minds. And I'm telling you, this business about Washington being a bubble, I know that's a cliche.
Yeah.
But cliches have become cliches because they're true. The rest of America looks at Washington, and they think, what planet did these people parachute in from? My book, I talk about that in the book.
You have very low approval rating as Congress, always.
Yeah, we rank up there with hemorrhoids, you know, and a lot of it's deserved.
There was, of course, a Senator, John F. Kennedy, in the 1950s.
Yep.
Became president.
I remember him a little bit.
Yeah, you've heard of him. And I think you start off in your book, my name is John Kennedy, and it's my real name. Do you have any aspirations to be a president, to run for that office anytime?
No, I don't. Now, probably 70% of the Senate thinks they ought to be president. And the scary thing is they think they're qualified.
And you smile at that,
but
we know your thoughts.
I don't. I just, I'm blessed to be in the United States Senate. I had to run 3 times to get there. It's the greatest place in the world if you care about policy. I work hard at it. I lead a very boring life. I do a lot of reading. I just want America. I honestly believe that our future can be better than our present or our past. I believe that. But I also believe that things aren't going to get better. The water in Washington, D.C. is not going to clear up, Dave, until we get some of the pigs out of the creek.
Well, how do you do that?
And you do it at the ballot box.
Okay.
You don't do it by getting mad. You don't do it by rioting in the streets. You do it and maybe I'm naive, but you do it with the power of ideas. And I have confidence in the American people. I'll say it again. They're busy. But most Americans get up every day, go to work, obey the law, pay their taxes, try to save for retirement, try to do the right thing by their kids. But they love their country. They think it's the greatest country in all of human history. They want it to be better. And they're willing to embrace your ideas, but you have to explain it to them. And I tell people, think think about America. We're not perfect, but we're good. When is the last time you heard of somebody trying to sneak into China? I mean, think about it. This is
Right.
America is so great that even people who hate our country, they don't want to leave it. Ask them, okay, why don't you go to China or North Korea? They go, oh, no. But I worry about my country. But I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist who worries.
The book, How to Test Negative or Stupid and Why Washington Never Will. It is out on Tuesday. John Kennedy, Republican, United States Senator from Louisiana, is the author. And thank you very much for joining us.
Dave, you're a rock star, man. Thank you.